I want to tell you about a woman named Claire. Claire had $43,000 in debt: student loans, a car payment, two credit cards, and a small medical bill she'd been ignoring for 8 months. Every month, she sat down, looked at the pile, felt completely overwhelmed, and then paid the minimums on everything because she didn't know where else to start. She wasn't irresponsible. She wasn't avoiding it. She genuinely didn't know there was a right order. She thought debt was debt. Pay what you can, when you can, and eventually it goes away. What nobody had told Claire, and what I'm going to walk you through today, is that the order in which you pay off debt determines how much of your life it consumes. Pay in the wrong order, and you hand thousands of extra dollars to lenders for no reason other than not knowing better. Pay in the right order, and you get out faster, pay less overall, and free up money that can start working for you instead of against you. This video is about the math, the real math, not the motivational version of debt payoff, the version that actually saves you the most money. Let me start with the mistake most people make. When someone decides to get serious about debt, the instinct is usually to attack the smallest balance first. The logic feels sound. You knock out the little ones quickly, you feel momentum, and that momentum carries you through the bigger ones. This strategy even has a name. Dave Ramsey popularized it as the debt snowball. And to be clear, it works. If the choice is between the debt snowball and doing nothing, the debt snowball is infinitely better than doing nothing. But it is not the strategy that saves you the most money. Not even close. The strategy that saves you the most money is called the debt avalanche, and it works like this. You list every debt you have, order them by interest rate from highest to lowest, and attack the highest rate debt first while paying minimums on everything else. When the highest rate debt is gone, you roll that payment into the next highest rate, and so on until everything is paid. The reason this works better mathematically is simple. Interest is the cost of carrying debt. The higher the interest rate, the more you pay per dollar of balance per month. By eliminating high-rate debt first, you reduce the total interest accruing across your entire debt load as fast as possible. You are attacking the most expensive part of the problem first. Let me show you what this looks like in real numbers, because the difference is not trivial. Say you have 3 debts: a credit card with a $6,000 balance at 22% interest, a car loan with a $12,000 balance at 7% interest, a student loan with an $18,000 balance at 5% interest. Total debt, $36,000. And say you have $800 per month to put toward debt after minimum payments. If you use the debt snowball, smallest balance first, you'd pay off the credit card first, then the car, then the student loan. Total interest paid over the payoff period, approximately $7,400. Time to debt freedom, roughly 52 months. If you use the debt avalanche, highest interest rate first, you'd attack the credit card first anyway in this case, since it's both the smallest and the highest rate, then the car, then the student loan. In this particular example, the difference is modest, but change the number slightly, make the car loan the smallest balance and the credit card a larger one, and the avalanche saves you $2,000 to $4,000 in interest and 6 to 12 months of payments compared to the snowball. The savings compound as the debt balances grow. Someone with $80,000 in mixed debt, which is not unusual when you combine student loans, car payments, and credit card balances, can save $10,000 to $20,000 in total interest by following the avalanche instead of the snowball. That is a year's worth of investment contributions. That is a down payment. That is money that could be compounding in your favor instead of disappearing into someone else's interest income. Now, before I walk you through the full framework, I want to address the most common objection to the avalanche method. People say it's harder to stay motivated because the high-interest debt is often also the largest balance, so it takes longer to eliminate the first one, and you don't get that quick win. That's a real psychological concern, and I don't want to dismiss it. But here's what I've found. The people who struggle with avalanche motivation are usually the people who haven't made the math real for themselves. When you sit down and calculate the exact dollar amount you will save by following the Avalanche, when you see that the number is $6,000 or $11,000 or $18,000, the motivation shifts. You're not grinding through debt for an abstract reason. You're protecting a specific sum of money from going to a lender who has already made enough of you. Make the math real. Write down the number. Put it somewhere you'll see it. That number is your motivation. Let me now walk you through the complete debt payoff framework, step by step, because knowing the strategy is only half of it. The execution is where most people get stuck. Step 1 is getting an honest, complete picture of everything you owe. Not an approximate picture, not the number you have in your head. Every debt, listed out with the current balance, the interest rate, and the minimum monthly payment. Credit cards, student loans, car loans, medical bills, personal loans, buy now, pay later balances, everything. A lot of people avoid this step because seeing it all in one place feels confrontational. Do it anyway. You cannot navigate out of debt you haven't fully mapped. Step 2 is identifying any debt with an interest rate above 7% and treating it as a financial emergency. I use 7% as the threshold because it represents roughly the long-term inflation-adjusted return of the stock market. Any debt costing you more than 7% per year is costing you more than your investments are likely to earn. You are losing ground net. High-interest debt and credit card debt in the United States averages over 20% right now, which is staggering, is not just expensive, it is wealth destruction. Every month you carry a 22% interest rate credit card balance, you are paying a premium that no investment return can reliably offset. Those debts come first, always, no exceptions. Step 3 is making sure you have a small buffer before going all in on debt payoff. Not a full emergency fund, we'll come back to that, but a small cushion, $1,000 to $2,000 sitting in a savings account. The reason for this is practical. If you put every available dollar toward debt and then an unexpected expense hits, a car repair, a medical bill, a broken appliance, you end up putting that expense on a credit card and undoing weeks or months of progress. The small buffer is a circuit breaker. It prevents the setbacks that derail most debt payoff attempts before they gain real momentum. Step 4 is calculating your actual monthly surplus. This is the number that drives everything. Take your monthly take-home pay, subtract your fixed expenses, rent, utilities, insurance, minimum debt payments, groceries, transportation. What's left is your surplus. That surplus is your weapon. Every dollar of it that goes toward the highest interest debt accelerates your payoff timeline and reduces your total interest paid. Most people don't know their actual surplus because they've never done this calculation. They have a rough sense that they spend most of what they make and save a little when they can. The specific number changes everything. If your surplus is $400 a month and you direct all of it to your 22% credit card, you can calculate exactly how many months until it's gone. That specificity is motivating in a way that vague intention is not. Step 5 is automating the extra payment. On the day your paycheck hits, before anything else happens, the surplus payment fires automatically to the highest rate debt, not the minimum plus your entire surplus. This is the avalanche in motion. You are not deciding each month whether to make the extra payment. The extra payment is the default. Everything else in your budget works around it. Step 6 is the rollover. When a debt is fully paid off, you do not adjust your lifestyle to absorb the freed-up payment. You roll it entirely into the next debt on your list. If you were paying $600 a month toward your credit card and it's now gone, that $600 immediately redirects to the next highest rate debt on top of whatever minimum you were already paying. This is where the avalanche builds real speed. Each eliminated debt increases the force you're applying to the next one. What started as a $400 monthly surplus becomes $1,000 after the first payoff, then $1,400 after the second. The acceleration is real and it is dramatic. Now I want to talk about the relationship between debt payoff and investing because this is where a lot of people get paralyzed. The question sounds like this: should I pay off debt first or start investing? And the answer most financial advice gives is frustratingly vague. It depends, they say, which is true but not helpful. Here is the framework I use, and it's cleaner than most. For any debt with an interest rate above 7%, pay it off before investing beyond your employer 401k match. The math is simple. You cannot reliably earn more than 7% in the market after inflation. Carrying 20% interest rate debt while investing is the financial equivalent of pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You are gaining on one side and losing faster on the other. For any debt with an interest rate below 7%, most student loans, car loans at reasonable rates, mortgages, invest simultaneously. A 4% student loan is cheap debt by historical standards. The market's long-term average return meaningfully exceeds 4%. Delaying investment contributions entirely while paying off low-rate debt means you're sacrificing years of compounding that you cannot recover. The cutoff is 7%. Above it, pay first, invest later. Below it, do both at the same time. There is one exception to the pay first rule that applies regardless of interest rate. Always contribute enough to your 401k to capture the full employer match, even if you have 25% interest rate credit card debt. The employer match is typically a 50 to 100% instant return on that contribution. No credit card interest rate is high enough to make giving up a 100% instant return a rational decision. Capture the match, then attack a high-rate debt with everything else. I want to address something that comes up every time I talk about debt payoff. People ask whether they should consolidate their debt or transfer balances to a 0% interest card. And the answer is, it depends on whether you use the tool correctly or let it become a trap. Balance transfer cards that offer 0% interest for 12 to 18 months are genuinely powerful if, and this is a significant if, you have a concrete plan to pay off the transferred balance before the promotional period ends. If you transfer $6,000 to a 0% card and pay it off in 15 months, you've paid zero interest on that balance. You've saved potentially $1,300 or more compared to carrying it at 22%. But the data on balance transfers is sobering. The majority of people who use them do not pay off the balance before the promotional rate expires. The card companies know this. That's why they offer the promotion. When the promotional period ends, the remaining balance reverts to a high interest rate, often higher than the original card, and you're worse off than when you started because you haven't built the discipline to accelerate the payoff. Use balance transfers as a tool with a specific plan and a specific timeline, never as a reason to slow down payments because the interest pressure is temporarily gone. Let me also talk about something that the debt payoff conversation almost never addresses: the behavioral side of what happens after you get out. The research on lottery winners and debt payoff has something uncomfortable in common. A significant percentage of people who pay off large amounts of debt end up back in debt within a few years, not because they're irresponsible, because they didn't change the underlying spending patterns and financial structures that created the debt in the first place. They removed the symptom without addressing the cause. Getting out of debt is the goal, but staying out of debt requires the same structural approach we talked about in the last video: automatic savings, spending what's left after the important things move first. A system that handles decisions so you don't have to make them under stress, when your judgment is compromised, when something feels urgent and the credit card is right there. The debt payoff framework and the wealth building framework are not two separate things. They're two phases of the same system. Phase 1 removes the drag. Phase 2 applies the momentum in the right direction. One without the other gives you an incomplete picture. Claire, the woman I mentioned at the beginning of this video, paid off her $43,000 in debt in 38 months using the Avalanche method. She saved approximately $4,800 in interest compared to what she would have paid following the Snowball order. The month after her last payment cleared, she redirected her entire debt payoff surplus, $1,100 a month by that point, into a Roth IRA and a brokerage account. She didn't pause, she didn't celebrate by spending, she rolled the momentum directly into the next phase. That is what getting it right looks like. Not perfect, not linear, without hard months, but directional. Always moving toward the version of her financial life where the money works for her instead of against her. The framework is simple. Get a complete picture of what you owe, attack high-rate debt first, automate the extra payments, roll each eliminated payment into the next debt, capture your 401k match no matter what, and the moment the last high-rate debt is gone, redirect everything into investments without breaking stride. That's the playbook. It's not exciting. It doesn't require a six-figure income or a financial advisor or a complicated system. It requires knowing the right order and being consistent long enough for the math to do what math does. One more thing. I want to speak directly to the people watching this who feel a specific kind of shame about their debt, the kind that makes it hard to look at the numbers, the kind that shows up as avoidance, not opening the statements, not logging into the accounts, not doing the calculation because seeing the real number feels unbearable. That shame is common, and it is one of the most expensive emotions in personal finance, because avoidance is the thing that lets interest compound quietly in the dark while you look the other way. The debt doesn't care how you feel about it. It grows whether you're watching or not. Facing it, mapping it, making it concrete, that is the first act of taking control back. The number on your screen is not a verdict on who you are. It is a problem with a solution, a math problem. And math problems, unlike a lot of life's problems, have clear answers. You know exactly what to do. You put the highest rate debt first, you automate the payment, you roll the surplus forward every time something is eliminated. The path out is not complicated. It just requires starting, which means looking at the number long enough to write it down. Do that today, not next week, today. Write down every balance and every rate. That list is the map. And once you have the map, the direction is obvious.